Hi again, everyone. So today we're talking with Tim, and I first found out about you through my best friend Kat, who went to a Wilder Waters gathering, and she had bought me one of your spoons, and it was this like small, really sweet, very smooth, well-carved spoon. I can't remember what I lost it in the end, but it was definitely a two-colored spoon, and she was like, "Oh, this is made from Tim." And had really good things to say about you. And then I remember finding you later through Owl Eyes, and then it just connected. I think you are involved with the gathering. Maybe you can share a little bit about that. And yeah, and then we've just been following you since. Tim offers and creates a lot of good content and does lots of good work. So maybe we can just start off by you introducing who you are. What is Owl Eyes to you? I mean, it's a very particular name for your business, and yeah, just what you love, who you are.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. I wish you had that spoon because I'd be able to like remember when I made it. I usually remember what I make, but it was probably red cedar if it was two different colors, or maybe walnut actually if it was
I
like a
think it was
darker. But
walnut.
yeah, that's
Mhm.
awesome. So I run Owl Eyes Wilderness Survival. So I'm actually on my 10th anniversary this year. So I started it in 2014, right when I got out of college. It was kind of like a weekend gig, every month or two, like one weekend, I do like a tracking or a foraging walk, for like 2 or 3 hours to like, 15 to 20 people. Um, that was way back, 10 years ago. And then just kind of throughout the years, now it's pretty much my full-time thing. Teaching, wilderness survival, spoon carving, fly fishing, things beyond wilderness survival too, like just like outdoor skills in general. And now that's my life. That's what I'm doing. That's how I'm supporting myself. And it seems like it's going great. I'm based out of Massachusetts. Um, and I go throughout New England. So like the Wilder Waters gathering, they actually combined with the Moose Ridge gathering now at this point. So it's the Maine gathering. So that's in Maine. And it's going on for 6 or 7 years now. And I'm good friends with um, both places that run it. So I think it's a good combination, and I help them kind of do stuff. I'm reaching out to all different instructors this year to get some new minds and new talent in there. And yeah, the gatherings are absolutely awesome. So I'll go and teach at a bunch of those. We fly out to Winter Count in Arizona every February, go teach there, and I think that's a great way to meet people and sell spoons. um,
Sounds
um, but yeah, so a lot of what I do is homeschool kids classes, kind of like Monday to Friday, and then on the weekends, adult wilderness survival classes. Usually, it'd be like a 6 hour class. Because me being in Massachusetts, I'm getting a lot of people from the city who are just, maybe they saw Alone or Naked and Afraid or something like that, and they just wanted to go and check it out. So I kind of start everyone at like, white belt, so to speak. That's my Wilderness Survival 1 class, which is okay, you bought a survival kit. How do you use it? So it's very gear heavy. It's like we use the ferro rod, fire starters. We have a tarp. We make a shelter out of it. We teach them how to use knives and carve stuff and map and compass, lots of gear. And then after they take 1, they can kind of move on to 2 or 3, which is more of like the primitive skills, right? Like starting a fire by rubbing sticks together. So survival 2 does bow drill, 3 does hand drill. We do like the fishing hand lines, things like that. And then after they take 2 and 3, then they can take 4, which is the atlatls and coal burning to make bowls that you can boil water in. And that's 24 hours worth of training right there for adults just in 4 classes. So, and I expect them to get some experience and dirt time practice in between those classes, things like that. And our biggest class is the SOS challenge, the Survival Outdoor Skills Challenge. We do that every year. It looks like it's going to be every August. We tried mixing up the months just to try to figure out what month is best. August seems to be a pretty good. There's no such thing as a perfect month to do any class, really. You guys know how it is. But it's a 4-day class, Thursday to Sunday. You show up, learn a bunch of skills, no experience necessary. The first year we did it for 3 years now. The first year we did it, we had a guy who was training for Naked and Afraid, and we had a woman who's never slept in a tent before, and she was in her late 30s, mid 30s, and both of them did great, and so we teach everybody Thursday, Friday. Saturday we have all these like crazy, ridiculous kind of survival challenges. So you're on a team and you're going up against the other teams, and uh, it's not competitive, but it's like it's fun, fun competition. Everyone wins stuff at the end, all that. And just ridiculous survival challenges. Like one of the last ones we give them, we mix up every year. But every year we have to do what we call the hurricane hustle, and we have a hose and a leaf blower, and you have to build a fire, and we're trying to put it out. So it's just fun, and people get a fire going.
Yeah.
Because it kind of trains you to be like, are you ever gonna want to try to start a fire in these conditions? No. But let's see if you can do it. So, and it kind of tests the skills, right? If we taught you how to build a fire that works in a hurricane, sort of, or at least in a leaf blower and hose, right? And then
Yeah.
that night they go out and they do a solo survival overnight, right? Because as you guys know, most people kind of die on the first night of survival. Um, so it gives them a chance to practice that first night so that if they ever do get lost in the woods or injured and they can't make it down the mountain, then they kind of have a better feel for what to do. Um, the first night, right? How do you get shelter? How do you make sure that you're okay? Things like that. And then Sunday we go around, look at everyone's survival sites, do some skill sharing, and then everyone gets all these crazy prizes. We have tons of sponsors and stuff. And this year I think we got like $2,000 worth of like prizes that we everyone went home with. So it was pretty cool. It's a good time. So but that's what I'm all about, just teaching and hanging out in the New England area, Massachusetts specifically.
Nice.
That's
I got a few things like perked up for me. Like I'm curious, as someone who's done a lot of courses and training, and I'm a white belt in jiu-jitsu right now, but I've done some MMA and more seasoned in Muay Thai. Um, was the levels, was that a progression that you just learned over time? And then like kind of, if it ties in, how did it, the business model, like to become your full-time gig, how did that like shape up? Was there a lot of like, boom, crash, like, okay, that idea? Because I think we're still in our growth phase, and we're trying to figure out what does our niche or what does our area want, and then also, what do the people in the city that we can attract want? So we're still trying to build, what's our offering that's going to attract people, and just hearing how you built your business, and kind of, yeah, like how did it get to that point that what you just explained with the levels? That all sounds like super cool and amazing. Like, sounds like I'd love to come by. And then, yeah, like, did it start out like that? Like, what's stepping stones or stumbling stones to go from your side hustle to business, to kind of sounds like you got a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, lots of mistakes. Because like I said, it started as just a weekend thing, right? Like I graduated with a double bachelor's degree in adventure education leadership and adventure therapy, and with tons of student loans. So it was one of those things where, many jobs in the outdoor industry, unless you're working like those wilderness therapy companies, which I feel like are all shutting down now because I think they're really not I don't know, maybe they have some negative history and stuff. Wilderness therapy kind of does have a negative history. And then in the present time, it's not really a negative thing. It can be a helpful thing. But that was like the highest paying job, like, in the adventure industry, pretty much, right? Beyond like leading like helicopter, Alaskan fishing trips or something like that. But so right when I graduated, I hopped into working wilderness therapy. And that was my full-time job, right? I worked in Vermont, moved out to Utah, and just did my stuff kind of on the side, tracking, foraging, and stuff. And there was no risk, right? Like it was just a fun thing that I did. Went to like nature places, like conservation things and things like that, libraries, all that. And then like somebody takes a class, and then it's like, hey, do you do kids' birthday parties? It's like, I could, like let's do it. And forever I had like nothing. I didn't have a website, I didn't have business cards, things like that. And it just started because I don't have like a background in business. So I was never like, here's how we do it. So I just learned as things went on. It kind of snowballed from there, where it's like one person takes a class, then they book a class, then two people from that class book another class, and it ended up being, you know, my thing I did on the weekends, just different venues. I'd reach out to places and say, hey, I teach survival skills. Would you be willing to, take me in or something like that? People would reach out to me. And at one point I was working a full-time job, part-time job, bagging groceries and doing my business just because I wanted to get my student loans done,
Mhm.
because I hate owing money or anything like that. So I just worked, um, and I think that was a big key to success too, was just being a workaholic in all the unhealthy ways possible. But you know, I, it's and it's also, I think it's, people always describe me as having like a passion for these skills. And I think that that kind of shows, as doing the skills never was like a money making thing for me, because I already had a job, I was all set. I
Mhm.
just want to do this stuff, like,
Mhm.
and I want people to be excited about it, like, look at this track, like, why aren't you excited about this track? Like, what about this? What, everybody should be gathering acorns,
Yeah.
Um, so I think it kind of came on that. And then I realized over time I actually have like a really like weird passion for like developing curriculums. And
Mhm.
I've helped like a few friends like kind of start their business, and like I like making logos and things like that. I saw your guys' logo, which looks awesome, by the way. And yeah, I don't know. I kind of just like got into it. And then the way I had my like wilderness survival 1, 2, 3, and 4, it used to be, it was winter survival, uh, earth survival, and then modern survival. So it was like modern survival was kind of like my survival 1, earth survival was like my 2 and 3 kind of mixed together. And then my winter survival was just all the skills you need in winter. So it just kind of like evolved, I think, over time, where it was like, well, how you were saying you do jujitsu, I do karate and jujitsu, and I like how you can kind of level up. So that probably had an influence on me as well. Um, because I think it's important to say, like, everybody, because if I can just get like all the knife skills out of the way, like, great, like, here's knife safety, let's carve a tent stake, right? Like an easy thing that's useful. And now knife safety, and now you know how to carve a tent stake, right? So then in survival 2, we don't have to talk about knife safety, so we can use that time to talk about something else. And now that you know how to make a tent stake, you know exactly how to make your horizontal stick and your figure 4 deadfall trap.
Mhm.
So it it adds on as time goes on, where everybody has to start with the basics, and it's everybody sees the shows and they want to go live out in the shelter for 3 months, but it's like, all right, well, why don't you just try not eating for like a day and
Yeah.
see how that goes for you, right? And it's everybody wants to start a fire by rubbing sticks together, but it's like, after you get that coal and you blow it into flame, do you have a fire built that's going to be able to like actually like keep you warm, right? So like, let's use ferro rods first. Let's try to start a 1 match fire, because when you start a bow drill fire, that's your 1 match, So you might even spend all day making your set and finally get a coal after hours of trying. Then you finally get it. You better have a fire built that can take that can, you guys know how it is, right? It's like, if that thing doesn't light, then you're gonna be you're done, because you might be too tired, or maybe you have blisters on your hands from the hand drill set or whatever. Um, and I like going deep into things, right? I'm always going to be teaching the basics because I'm always going to have people who are getting into it, but I'm always personally trying to push my skills, you
Mhm.
know, um, and do all that. And I'm excited when students get into it, because I do a wilderness survival 1 every month, at least one. And usually I get 10 to 20 people in that. But then by the time I get to survival 4, maybe there's 3 people in each class. And I only do that twice a year,
Mhm.
so it's like I said before, everyone starts at white belt, but not everyone makes it to black belt, or it's everybody starts. And honestly, great. Like, if you take wilderness survival 1 6-hour class, maybe that's all you feel like you need. You're going to go hike up in the White Mountains in New Hampshire or something like that. And that's good enough for you, because I design each class to kind of be a standalone class.
Mhm.
Um, and I think there's value too in just, you know, um, evolving. Definitely, like with your skills, right? Is like, you kind of pass the test, right? You took the basic, great, you finished the class, now you can level up. Um, and through like the curriculum developments and one of my full-time jobs is I worked at a holistic organic cafe that made everything from scratch. And we had like 20 sandwiches on the menu. And you see people come in and they just like stare at the menu and they have no idea what's going on. So we decided, like, why don't we just have like 4 sandwiches? People came in, they knew exactly what they wanted, right?
Mm-hmm.
They see it, I want that. And it's like the same thing. It's good food, whatever. So I used to have like 50 different classes listed on my site, where it's like, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. And everyone's looking at like, I don't know where to start. So it's like, great, start at Wilderness Survival 1. There's tons of skills, and then we can move from there. So that's kind of how that all came to being over time.
Nice. Yeah.
I
Sometimes
love
you have
it.
to, you just got to tell the customer what they want,
Yeah,
especially
exactly.
like if you're not like fanboy. And I feel like that's how I started, was just fanboy with a lot of outdoor stuff. So you're like, oh my gosh, there's like so much, there's so much, there's 50 things. Like, oh my gosh, all these skills. And it's like, yeah, like you're saying, like, okay, here's a 10 you're going to do. And a little pat on the back. There you go, son. Here you go. Master these 5 today and then come back in 2 months. That makes a lot of sense. It sounds like definitely well thought out. Like you definitely had the curriculum outline, kind of setting people up for success as the levels progress.
Yeah. Yeah. And as instructors, it's up to us to say, like, what are the skills that you should start with? Right. And I think every instructor does have a different um, idea of that, right? Where maybe some people want to start you off at bow drills and you get really good at it, right? Or like, I teach a certain weapon or a way to gather meat in each class, and I start people off with the rabbit stick, the boomerang that doesn't come back, right? That's kind of how we tell it easily, where it's all you're doing is just carving a hardwood stick. It's easy to make, but it's very hard to master. So for me, I'm like, well, let's start you guys out with that, because then you're going to be able to get better at that over time. And then in like survival 4, we make the atlatl, which is the ones that we make are hard to make, right? They just require a lot of carving, and then the dart, the straightening the dart and stuff like that. And I feel like it's a little bit easier to master that over a throwing stick. And then like a bow takes, you got to cut the tree down, then wait a year for the wood to season. So, but it's very easy to at least be able to get good at it, right? So, yeah, I think that's kind of like why I like the originality of like all different survival schools, things like that, just because it's what is like their basic class and what is like their idea of what they think is basic, because everybody has a different opinion of that. And I like that. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, because I think we've struggled with that in the past, deciding like, what are we going to offer? And then, we want to offer some of the primitive skill stuff, but into like a overnight. And then, like you're saying now, I'm thinking, okay, we're throwing the full Monty at them, and we're trying to offer too many where it's like, okay, maybe an overnight with just some basic knife skills, ferro rod, how to build a fire. Because sometimes you take those things for granted. It's like, I've been building fires since I could stand up, heat your home with fire, campfires, and it's just like, you don't even think about it. But it's like, okay, yeah, not everyone knows, you can stack your wood like this, a little pyramid, or you could do a little Jenga set, like, here's your different ways to start a fire. So people are just, oh, you just throw this all together and it's gonna light up, right? It's dry. And sometimes we
Yeah.
forget about those little nuances to a beginner, and we're trying to offer them the world, and really what they need is their hand held through the first, like you said, like, here's knife safety, here's a couple basic first aid things, and okay, good, you just 6 hours is gone like that. And if you're passionate about it, you'll come back for the deeper stuff, and it get deeper and deeper as you go.
But I think one difference with Finding Polaris is we love our teachings to really be like lifestyle focused, and I'm sure there's that in yours as well. So as it has evolved, we have noticed our passion is, yes, the skills, but also when we want our participants to go home, we truly want them to have a change in their life. So that's when we ended up really talking about water was big, food, just rewilding skills, because I felt almost it's different than like, oh, we're teaching you a survival skill. There's like this disconnect. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to this weekend or this day event, and then I'm just gonna go home and do exactly what I was doing. But hey, I did a survival course, and I think for me that's like, it always felt weird where I think our passion and our gifts is bridging that gap. So, you know, we bring people into the deep wilderness. Of course, we'll teach these skills, but what's more important for us is for them to have some foundation of like ways that they can change their day-to-day lifestyle. And yeah, maybe be prepared with friction fire and all that stuff. But, you know, will I ever in my lifetime need to know friction fire to start a fire? Maybe, potentially. But, you know, having access to clean water is something that will impact my health and my well-being generationally every single day, you know? And we still teach friction fire. It's not, there's no like hierarchy, but I think when we're evolving Finding Polaris, we're finding that to be where our passion, our fire is. But I'm curious, like, do you touch and expand on that as well in your courses, or how do you bridge that? Because it's obviously a lifestyle for you.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle for me, and I think through my classes, I don't feel like I necessarily like talk about like if I can get people to just carry a knife every day, I think that's a big achievement, you know, it being in Massachusetts, you know, so it's a lot of, you know, it's one of those things that it's like if you guys can just carry even like a folding knife, you know, just like in your pocket or even in your car, or like even when you hike, please, you know. But I think my goal is to inspire people to do that, and you guys go into it way more because I was looking through your website and watched the video. It was about the Vision Quest that I looked through that page and I thought that was absolutely amazing, and it's like completely beyond my scope. I thought that was awesome. Um, yeah, I guess I'm never like I think things come up in class that make people think about it. Like when I talk about water, like in survival one, so to speak, I'll talk about filtering, using the iodine, the chemicals, and then boiling, things like that. But I talk about kind of like I call it Boston juice, the like the Boston River water, you know, and it's like you're not gonna boil that and be fine, you know. So and it's like our tap water here like smells like a pool. So I talk about spring water and stuff like that, but not I feel like the classes are more about like you're lost in the woods. How do you do it? But also make it your lifestyle, right? Like your wardrobe could just be all like I'm wearing like merino wool base layers right now, just sitting at my office just because I'm living my life and that's the clothes I wear, you know? So um yeah, I mean I think that's absolutely amazing you guys do that. And I think that's a cool incorporation, right? Because I think it means more where it's like, here's these cool skills, but let's incorporate them into everyday life, you know?
Well,
And to be honest, there's a lot of pushback because not it takes a certain ready of openness to be able to welcome big change like that in your life, you know? So in some ways,
Yeah.
like teaching plants, like everyone's like, great plants. But then when it's like, hey, like, well, let's go to water or just overall lifestyle and health and well-being.
Let's
and like
not eat for 24 hours.
yeah, and then people are like, oh, I don't want to do that. You know, they're like,
Yeah.
teach me the medicinal herbs, but yeah, I'm not interested in like actually pushing my boundaries or
Well, that's
yeah.
kind of when you mentioned like your levels. I was like, oh, that's so
Mhm.
genius because like
Mhm.
we don't need to force them into the lifestyle piece. And like you said, it gets teased out because you're living like that anyway. And like you have probably a hierarchy of like, hey, if you can find like spring water, good brook water, or you know, like a pristine lake, like here's your hierarchy. And then here's the survival piece under here. Like this is where, okay, this is where we need to use our noodle and be creative, but at the same time you're teaching, you know, the nice skills and all those things. It's like I feel like maybe that's something we take for granted is we're trying to put out a large net and scoop up these very special people who want the lifestyle thing, but maybe it's like cast a wide net for a lot of people and then, you know, kind of cook them and see who's left in the end. It's like, okay, are you ready for a little more in depth, a little more life way piece?
Mhm.
And then yeah, just when you brought that, I'm like, oh, that's genius because like you said, like you know, a folding knife, I feel naked if I don't have mine. And like
Yeah.
mine just came from my mom was dating a farmer and he got into an accident with a post hole digger on his tractor and it flipped him over his tractor, dislocated his shoulder. It was a big 24-hour or like ordeal. He could have died and all this stuff. And like, you know, look you in the eyes and like, oh, if I would have had just my pocket knife, I could have cut my sleeve. You know, I would not have been out in the rain for, you know, 10, 20 hours. arm dislocated and trauma and stuff like that. So like little things like that just always stuck with me. Like, oh, okay, like folding knife on me at all times, like cut a seatbelt or whatever. And yeah, like sometimes it's easy to overlook those little things. It's like, oh, okay, if they just knew this little thing and they could carry pocket knife, like that's a win in the right direction. And I guess sometimes we're like purists, we're like we want to change the world too much too fast.
Yeah, but that's like getting people into green belt when they haven't gone to white belt, right? Where it's everyone's got to start at white belt, right? So,
Mm.
um, yeah, because I noticed the more, and even with my classes too, and like the more specific you get, the less people you get, which is interesting. Like if I do a survival or I do a foraging or a fire building class, I'll get more people. But if I do a bow drill fire making class, I get less people. Or if I do a foraging for pine and like the whole class is going to be all about pine, I get less people. It's interesting how that works, where it's like the general stuff, the basic stuff is going to get a lot of people. And I kind of thought about this overall, and I ended up making like a certification, kind of like an in-house certification. I don't know if you guys saw that. I call it the Alula certification, which the Alula is the leading part of a bird's wing.
Mm.
Um, so I have it for kids and adults. And when kids do 4 homeschool programs, or when adults do survival 1 to 4, they get a feather patch for each class they take. And do I have my bag in here? It goes around my, if you guys can see it, it's like there's my, sorry, it's dark in here. There's my logo, and then the feathers go around. So they get, 4, they get that. And then once kids get that, they have a choice. They can take the Alula test. And I tell them the Alula test is me making your life miserable for 3 hours. And, I don't care if you get the fire. I don't care if you hit the target with the atlatl or the bow. I don't care, whatever. I just care that you don't give up. So if I'm
Oh,
sitting there spraying you with a leaf blower and a hose, you better keep making a fire, even if it's 3 hours straight, you better keep trying. And then they get, the certification. It's a big thing. Adults, and I have adults who are super into it, and then I have some people who just take the basics and they're good. And adults, they have to take 1, 2, 3, 4, the SOS challenge, a specific foraging class, a specific tracking class, a specific map and compass course, and a wilderness first aid course.
nice.
And I have adjunct instructors that come in and teach that, of course, because I'm certified in wilderness first aid, but not to certify. So
Mm.
um, so that's a lot, and how many people am I ever going to get doing that whole thing? I don't know, but
Mhm.
way less than the people who take the basic class. But those are the people that I really want, though. I want the people who are super into it. I want the people who are deep into it. It's just, and I don't know how it is for the community up there where you guys are, but Massachusetts isn't really there's like small pockets, but it's not really there's not really much of like a big outdoor community for the most part. It's a lot of just people driving up to the Whites on the weekends, hiking a mountain, then coming down, and then going back to the office, and just whatever. Um, so I think it's the people who are really into it. Those are the people I really want, but there's just, you know, I couldn't run a sustainable survival school if I just catered to those people. I know that. So, but
Yeah. Yeah, I'm curious for the homeschool groups. Is your like teaching style, is it 8 shields model, like John Young's work, or
no,
what?
I did work for the Wilderness Awareness School one summer. Um, and I like that perspective. It's just not, maybe I'm influenced by like all the things I am, right? By all the things I've done. Because when I started in college, I was going to the Maine Primitive Skills School a lot in Maine, the Root School in Vermont, and I've taken classes from, everybody everywhere at this point, all over the country, all different instructors, and all different like philosophies, things like that. And I've created my own, system, I guess. I don't have a title for it or anything like that. But because when I started, there was all like the Tom Brown, there was a lot of people from the Tom Brown lineage. I think the main primitive skill school and the root school are from that. So I had a big exposure to that. I even think John Young has affiliation with Tom Brown too, right? Or they come from some other person or what. I don't know how it works out, but um, yeah, I don't know. I think I just show up and just give the kids a hard time. That's my model.
But it sounds like there's some play base and like a piece around when I was hearing you speak to your like badges. I'm like, hey, that's kind of our equivalent. Like I would say our work is very rites of passage oriented. To us, those are, there's just a big need in our culture for that and pushing people to that edge. And then when you get over any rite of passage, I mean, how do you not feel like even us when we work through something that's very challenging, there's like this level of embodiment that you can't just buy. You have to go through that cycle and hardship and this self-exploration journey, whether that's, through your first coal or your first night solo in the woods. Like obviously there's different iterations, but yeah, it just sounded like I was like, hey, maybe there is some of that style in your work because it sounds very like playful and like game oriented and challenging.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely do games. And I tell everyone I teach adults and kids the same exact thing. I
Yeah.
just teach them very differently.
Yeah.
Where kids and adults, they learn shelter building, right? But kids, I teach them debris shelter right away. Adults have to wait a class for survival two to learn that one because when kids are lost in the woods, everybody knows when a kid is lost, right? If you're an adult and you live alone, maybe you could be gone for 3 weeks before like your cousin calls you up or something, oh, they're not home. Yeah, they're probably busy. And then they wait another week and then like, all right, what's going on? She could be missing forever. If a kid's missing, as long as like it's a good, healthy family dynamic, everyone's going to know that the kid's missing, right? So I teach the kids build a shelter because that's going to make you stay put. And that's going to, at least if you had to survive the night, which you probably won't have to as a child. And I tell them, and just make sure that you reply to your name because just from me being on search and rescue teams and stuff, they've always said that kids sometimes hide from the searchers calling their name because they get into that panic state. So different, same skills, different times and different reasons, but yeah, I have a lot of games I play with the kids, and you guys probably know about the camouflage game where you just yell camouflage randomly and the kids all have to go and hide, and then you got to find them. And so they love that game. And that's always like a good time for us to like take a break or something. Or if we're in the middle of something like really deep into it or something like that, I'll just yell it. And they all scatter through the woods. Or if I just need like, if the kids won't stop talking or something, I'm like, all right, you guys need to just like go away for a sec so I can clean this up.
Yeah.
But yeah, lots of games with the kids. And I almost push the kids harder than I push the adults. Just because I work with them a lot more than I work with adults. Because I'll see kids for 24 classes by the time they're done doing, their 4 feathers. Adults, I'll see them for, 4 classes pretty much,
Right.
So the kids, I actually develop more of a bond, I feel like, with the kids because it's more of a mentorship thing with them. And there's definitely like everybody has like every school has like its own culture and stuff. And for me, I don't sing songs in any of my classes, and that was a conscious decision I made. And I don't really do any like ceremonies like smudging or anything like that because I've noticed from being in all different groups of people, I don't want to do, if I could sit back and watch groups do activities, when people sing, if you look around a group, in any single group, unless it's like people who are really into it, there's always going to be people who don't sing. Always. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do it, because I'm a terrible singer anyway. It sounds like a dying turkey. So let's just not do that, and I don't want to do anything. I have like my own spirituality and things like that. But I don't want to do that because I'm getting people from all different backgrounds, you know? Um, so it's one of those things where that's kind of the culture of my school is that we'll take anyone in, but we're not going to do anything religious or spiritual or anything that I've noticed other people don't want to get involved with, where singing, nothing wrong with it at all, right? Like the Wilderness Awareness School, when I worked there, it was every 4 seconds we sang a new song, you know, and it was like, all right. And then, you know, some of those are still stuck in my head, and that was like 7 years ago, you know, and great, right? And
Like,
I could see how everybody bonded over that, right? And a lot of people had it, and it was like a thing for everyone to do, and that was a part of the culture there. But I
mhm.
noticed, you know, anywhere I go, even all these gatherings and stuff, there's always people that opt out. So that's just why I made certain conscious decisions to the culture of owlized wilderness survival is this, right? And here's the things we don't do. And that's for some reason I just decided to not do it. I'll sing like dumb little 4-line songs to the kids sometimes while making fun of them and stuff, but they love it. Or I'll make up like little raps about the kids when they're doing stuff, but nothing, nothing serious.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what's nice doing your own thing is that you get to create the energy, the space, the circle, the dynamic of the group. And it totally changes based on who's there too.
Mhm.
Like we definitely you can't it's hard to just stick to one style because when you have a group, I mean, we're often met with like completely different personalities and then you're just working with who shows up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, and people show up at least to my school to learn survival skills or learn whatever skill. And that's what we're going to do, you know? Um, so I never get into a lot of like personal stuff with people in the classes, like, you know, what's your background, what's your sexuality, what's your race. You show up, I'm going to teach you the same thing no matter what. In fact, the less I know about you, the better, right? You know, if we learn stuff about each other, great, but you're here to learn skills. Let's do some skills, you know? And then over time, obviously, we get to know each other, you know, if they keep talking to me and keep coming back. But and anyone's welcome. I don't really, yeah, I don't care. Whoever you are is who you are. If you're into the skills, we're gonna get along great. You know,
Yeah.
so I never even get into that, you know, because it's never about that. It's about survival skills or whatever, spoon carving or fly fishing or something like that, you know. So
Yeah, nice way to cut out the awkwardness for sure. Because some people you don't know their background or their feeling towards something, and like something I talk about a lot when we're doing like our rites of passage stuff or just teaching in general is our language is so poor, and every person's um, belief of what a word means or conveys is different. So just by leaving out those, just the songs and ceremonies and that type of stuff, like I like to tell people all the time, like I say newspaper to you, you picture your dad reading a newspaper. I say newspaper to her, maybe her dad beat her with a newspaper. So the word newspaper for her triggers her right away. And for you, you're like, oh, newspaper, my dad, I love him. And so it's
yeah,
like just a simple word like that. So like just in teaching and trying to convey stuff, yeah, I could definitely see that. Like you kind of cut out a lot of the fat that doesn't need to be there for you to teach your skills.
Mhm.
And for sure, sometimes like with rites of passage stuff or smaller group stuff, it's definitely I'd say Daria's more of the like the leader, main teacher, and I'm kind of just the helper. But her style and stuff like that. Yeah, for some people that probably like the songs and certain stuff, it might short circuit them because they're like, oh my god, like no, I'm not going to be the person who sings so that people don't sing. Like, do you sing? Are we happy? Are we human? Well, what do I do? I don't, So for sure, I could see like, yeah, it's a great way to just narrow it down. Like, you're here to learn skills. Let's do skills.
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So, and you know, and students, there's plenty of time. I always tell students, the more I can shut up and the more you can like do stuff, the better. So they
Mhm.
have tons of time to talk, get to know each other, ask questions, you know, and stuff comes up, and it's kind of like a nice thing. And everyone, I'm very lucky in the 10 years I've been in business. I can't think of like one person that I've been like, this person needs to leave. You know, every now and then somebody will say something weird, but and sometimes I get like wicked annoying kids, but in the end, it's like, you know, everyone's been great, you know, so far so good without me having to like tell everyone to get along. You know,
Yeah.
I think in my email I sent, I'm always like, get ready to get along with all ages, genders, and backgrounds and experience levels. I think that's all I say, and everyone does great. So um, but it's the
Nice.
culture, right? The culture of a place, right? When you do like the rites of passage, it would probably make more sense to have almost more of like a specific culture that's very unique, because then it creates like a camaraderie with like everybody in a certain, because I'm sure you're doing that long. It's not like a one-time class. It's like a longer term thing. Right?
Well, our main program right now is our Vision Quest, which is
Yeah.
10 days. So
Yeah.
but that people are coming in to open up. Like it's
Yeah,
very,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they still learn. Yeah, they get exposed to a lot of skills out there, but it's less skills, but it's just different
The
skills.
skills are, I think we pepper them in, but it's we're tearing them apart
Yeah.
essentially and opening them up kind of slowly. And then the skill stuff is fun. It's a distraction. It gets them moving. It passes by the day, and then we're able to communicate and teach at the same time. So like, yeah, we'll pepper skills in there, but it's also just a way to get them to relax, open up. Some of the skills are maybe more edgy, so like, it makes it more real. As they're gonna push that threshold, like you're about to do something really hard. So let's open you up a bit. Let's do something hard. Okay, then
And it gets them in their body and in their senses and learning new things. But yeah, I would say
there's so much, like we like to say, like your vibration is like up here when you come from the city or wherever, like even if you lived out in the country off grid and you at least look at your phone to get news updates, you're still going to be like buzzing up here. And to get away from like any cellular signal, phones, all that stuff, and it's just us and nature, like it takes time for that to come down, so you almost have to do things that tease it out and just bring down that, like till everyone can just like, oh, okay, cool, like we're all here vibing down here now. Yeah,
Yeah.
just to get the Vision Quest kind of started, even like a few days just
Yeah.
to bring things down.
It's like 9 days of cell phone detox and 1 day of actual work.
Well, it's funny.
That's how
So
it works.
when I first started Finding Polaris, I think 4 years ago, my offering was a 1 month of immersion. So
Yeah.
I used to be living on a piece of property in an off-grid, like tiny house or like a cabin. It was 100 square feet. So we were mostly like, when Jeff first met me, I was sleeping outside under a tarp with a bug net because the bugs are pretty intense here by the water. And I had a cabin and I didn't even want to sleep in the cabin. I was sleeping outside up until, it got cold enough and I would shift in. But I learned a lot that not a lot of people want to do a 1 month immersion, but for me, that's where I thrive. Like, I don't thrive in a 3 hour class or a weekend getaway. I always went all in, but then, I learned quite quickly that wasn't the best.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's your norm, right? But then like for some people, it's like some people, some people haven't even stepped off trail, right? Like like getting people to step over a log is like a whole life-changing event sometimes, and it's not for everybody, but it's crazy, So, I mean, I think to do like the real deep work, you need like 5 years of living out in the world, you know what I mean? But a month is like a great, I think a great time, because I've done like 10-day kind of survival classes out in the wilderness, things like that. And it's like no phones. It's like your whole sleep schedule is able to change. Your like everything is able to change. And you come back and it's almost like a big shock, when you have to sit back in the car seat and drive.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's crazy, but yeah, so I agree with you that like a month is awesome, but it's all about the people, when you want to do an offering for somebody, it's, we live in a day and age where like you have to be successful on social media in order to like get the word out. You have to constantly remind people that you exist. And I've noticed like a significant, like, cause I always put up like really stupid Instagram reels. I don't know if you guys saw some, but I just sometimes just do like a
Good.
stupid, silly one. But
Yeah.
that always gets more likes. But then when I put up like an actual informational post, I'll get nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to mix it. And
Yeah.
it's like, you guys are probably can feel this, but since I became like a full-time wilderness survival skills instructor, I am more on the computer now than I ever have been in my entire life, to connect people to not being on the computer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
You guys, it's the
for
same thing,
sure.
right? Because yeah, you guys have to make videos, you got to update the social media, all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was to circle back to the beginning of the conversation about carrying a knife. Just a funny story for people here. So when I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail in 2016, I didn't even carry a knife with me. Like, looking back now, I cannot believe it. So I hiked through, well, anyways, that mountain range on the west side of the US, and I had a little pocket knife. It was like, I don't even know that it had just like a red cross. It was like this big, and it had a fold off, like just a fold out blade that was so tiny. And I look back at that and I think I'm crazy. That was so ridiculous, but I survived. I didn't even have a GPS on me. We had one cell phone that oh no, we didn't have a cell phone. Yeah, no cell phone, no GPS. We printed all our maps, and I didn't even have a knife, unless you want to count that tiny blade as a knife.
Well, thing. Yeah.
That was before I went to Wilderness Awareness School, teaching drum and all that. But I look back and I'm like, that was ridiculous. I can't believe it.
That's why one of her names, one of our programs was Hardcore.
Yeah.
That's one of the students'
Hardcore.
names. Hardcore. Every time she'd tell a story, he'd be like, that's hardcore.
But our students get a knife, they get a knife.
That's awesome. But I mean, for like hiking and stuff like that, like, because I hike up in the White Mountains, and it's all Appalachian Trail hikers at certain times of year. You just pass them and pass them, and I'm always about gear, right? Like, because when I went to college, it was all gear oriented, right? Like, everybody was all about the gear because it's rock climbing, canoeing, and then I had like that interest in primitive skills, and there was a club there, so I kind of combined my stuff. But I just can't help but to like gear, so I'm always looking at what they have, and it's always completely different stuff. And I guarantee you, a lot of them don't have like a fixed blade, like even like a cheap Mora knife.
Yeah.
It's just like a little thing. And that's honestly probably all you need for hiking, because you're just eating food, hiking, digging a cat hole, going to sleep, repeat for 3 months straight, So you might need to like cut some cheese or some sausage or something, but it's not like you're carving and stuff. And you have all your needs kind of met, right? You have your shelter, you have your water filter, all that. So at least you had something, some little thing, you know. But yeah, but some people, like my girlfriend's sister just did some big hike in the Adirondacks, and she bought her, because my girlfriend's all into knives too, and she bought her sister a knife. And then she, like, when she's telling her about the trip she's going on, she has asked her, she's like, "You bring your knife?" She's like, "Oh, I forgot it." And she's like, "I'll be fine. Don't worry, I'll be fine." And she was fine, right? If I don't bring my knife, I'm not gonna be fine. But everyone, it's like you guys hike on the trail and you guys see the guy with like the zip up cotton hoodie, the pair of jeans, like
Yeah.
the sneakers, and all he has is like one plastic water bottle, hiking up like a 15-mile trail. He's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But if I ever hiked like that, something would happen. It's just the way it is. So I always have to bring the stuff. So,
Well, even now, having like, we have a 1-year-old daughter, and like we have 2 first aid kits. One is like a full-on wilderness first aid kit, and it is in our vehicle all the time.
Like a
Everywhere we
military
go.
trauma kit.
It's like
in the vehicle, yeah.
Yeah. And then we have like a side bag that has just like basic care, not emergency, but we use that one actually more than the other one, and it's just always with us. And now when we have our program,
bring a power bank for your phone, even though we're gone for like 6 hours, just like overkill, but
yeah. And we have a satellite phone now, which this is the first year, and it's honestly because we have Shazandra with us. Before we ran our programs, I never had a sat phone if something did happen, and we are out where there's no service, and like a decent drive,
we're like 2 hours from civilization.
So, but then this year my perspective has shifted, and we have one now.
And of course, like, you find the excuses to use it. We got smoked a few days, and then like, oh, okay, maybe it's forest fire, maybe it's a big campfire, I don't know. And then, then you see some people, oh, big forest fire back there. Well, okay, like, I'll climb the highest mountain that's near us. Okay, I don't see flames, so I think we're safe. And then, like, as days go by, then the rangers are out, and okay, it's just far from you, and we're on the sat phone, like, texting, like, someone back in the city, can you tell us, like, the details? What's this big? It's moved this way, and then we see the rangers and they're like, oh no, it's like, well, 20 kilometers, but it's moving north from you. And like, okay. Family's freaking out, but we're fine.
Yeah, kids always kind of are an excuse to bring a lot of stuff too. It's just the way it is. You know, I have two step kids, and when we go to like these gatherings and stuff, we have like those like those big black bins with the yellow lids on them.
Yeah.
You know, we put like 5 of those in the bed of the pickup truck. And then when I go, I'm like, and it's like full of stuff, and it's all stuff that we use. And
Yeah.
it's also more people. It is more people. It's 4 people going instead of just one. But when I go and like do like a weekend or something, it's like one, a sleeping bag and a tarp and like a little tiny stove,
Uh,
and that's it. So it's funny how it works with kids too, but they got to
yeah.
be comfortable because I think an uncomfortable kid is different than an uncomfortable adult. So
Mhm.
Definitely.
Well, maybe we can start closing. I would love to hear the story behind Owl Eyes. I think that'd be a great place to wrap it up if you want to share that. And then definitely let people know where they can find you, your work, your offerings.
sure. So Owl Eyes, so as you guys know, it's kind of like a skill where it was one of the first skills somebody taught me, where like you use your peripheral vision, kind of open it up. But really the reason why I named my business Owl Eyes is because when I was thinking of a name, I was driving, to my full-time job at the time. I'd go in at 6 a.m. So it was like super early in the morning. It was during the winter. And I found a barred owl that was sitting in the middle of the road. And I'm all about the animal spirituality and stuff, right? So I'm just thinking about it, and what am I going to name my business? Is there like an animal or a plant or a color or like something, and then I found this owl, and it unfortunately got hit by a car, and I'm sure it ended up dying. But I pulled over and like grabbed it and like we called the wildlife rehab place. They came and picked it up, things like that. And for me, I was kind of like, okay, well, like the owl showed up while I was actively thinking about it, and this for me, it's all about teaching people how to like connect with nature, right? And just if we can like learn that nature can be a home, or I don't want to say like of use to us, but if nature's not just this thing to like walk on the trail and just like, if it's there, great. If it's not there, then we can go to the mall or something like that. I want it to be a home for people, right? So that's kind of what it's all about, is getting people out there, getting them into the woods, and protecting nature, right? Because as we connect with something, we develop a relationship with it, and if we have a relationship with it, we want to protect it, right? So um, the owl was like a good kind of symbol for that. And I was kind of asking people like, oh, like what, and I'm helping people see nature differently. Um, so I was asking people like, oh, what do you think of owl eyes? And I had a few names in mind.
He's gonna say
Um,
the baby's crying, so
oh yeah.
we'll close. Yeah.
Should I continue, or
Yeah. We'll close
I
up.
was gonna say I can wait to so whatever. But I'm helping people see nature differently. And I asked people, um, like their opinion of the name. Everyone was all for it, like, oh, that sounds great. That sounds great. And I had one friend, my friend Mike, great, he was like my mentor way back when, and now he's one of my closest people. He's Micmac, and he said that in his culture, an owl is actually an omen of death. So for me, I was kind of like, okay, like let me take that and sit with that for a second. And I was like, I actually kind of want the owl, because it's kind of like, you see where like the state of the world is right now and
Mm.
what we're doing to nature. I was like, okay, I think the owl actually works. But for me, anytime I'm out in the woods or anything like that, like for my whole life, if I've ever heard an owl, it always made me feel safe for
Mm.
some reason. Like, okay, like, oh, like I can go to sleep now, or you know what I mean? Like an owl's there, I don't know. So it's kind of like, different perspectives from different cultures, things like that. So I kind of appreciated when he said that it wasn't like an omen of death. And I was like, well, an owl is really, I think it's like a powerful animal. And it's also one of those animals that people like connect with, like if I did like sea urchin survival, it's like it's not an animal that's always represented. So I feel like a lot, if you can look at across like all the survival schools that are named after an animal, it's like a wolf, coyote, a raven, a moose, you
Yeah.
know.
The big ones, the big
Yeah,
eagle. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's all animals that people, and I think for a good reason, because people in general, like the general public, relates to those animals. So I think owls are kind of, and like there was no other, I think there's like two other businesses now that either have an owl as their logo or a their name also involves owl. And I looked and I didn't see another one that had owl when I named it. I'm not, it doesn't matter, I don't care if anybody used it, but I was like trying to think of something different because I like to be original, I like to be different, I like to be set apart. So I was
Mhm.
like, all right, let's do an owl. Owl Eyes works because I'm helping people see nature differently and kind of thinking as home. And then wilderness survival is because I'm not a school, right? I don't have like a location. I operate
Yeah.
on conservation land use. So I didn't feel right saying wilderness school. I played with it different things and it's kind of Owl Eyes Wilderness for short because it's all wilderness skills.
Mm,
That's almost what I probably should have called it was
yeah.
wilderness skills. Cause even like fly fishing, I wouldn't consider to be like a survival skill. Obviously, you can use it as such, but it's more of just like a go out there and fish kind of thing.
Mm.
But that's where the name came to be. And my logo, I like drew like a really crappy colored pencil thing and then got it like professionally done. So that's
I love
that. So
awesome. It works.
yeah, so it works good. So, and I like birds. Feathers are kind of my symbol for a lot of things. Like I have like 3 feather tattoos and I always draw feathers. And if there's ever any feather or anything, I love it. So
Nice. Nice. Well, I know a lot of ancient cultures, like I guess Western ancient cultures, like would be revered as a knowledgeable, like a hidden knowledge. The owl was like something for like secret societies, something for like knowledge keepers throughout the eons. I guess have the owl as like we're bringing knowledge forth into the future. So I think that
yeah,
works well for you as well. I think
yeah,
the logo's fun though. It seems it's not intimidating for like a wilderness survival. Like sometimes the logos is like, oh, this is too serious. It's like, how
yeah,
serious are we getting here? Like, should I tie my shoes up real tight or? But yours
yeah.
feels fun. It feels light.
Yeah, I wanted playful but badass. I think I got, you know what I
You
mean?
hit
Like
it. You hit it.
we're gonna have fun, but we're gonna do some serious stuff, you know? So,
Yeah.
that's kind of how I am, is I always like to have fun with the stuff, even if it's like a miserable hike. Let's turn it into a fun experience.
Right
But
on.
so that's
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah. If you want to let people know, so we kind of touched on it already, but like website, Instagram, where people find you, if they're in your area or states nearby.
sure. So if you just look up Owl Eyes Wilderness, like owleyeswilderness.com, you go to all the social medias, right? Facebook, YouTube. I'm trying the TikTok thing. Um, Mostly on Instagram. That's probably where the best place to see my stuff is on Instagram. It's just Owl Eyes Wilderness. Um, Go to my website, owleyeswilderness.com. And I'm in Massachusetts, pretty close to Boston, but just far enough where I'm in kind of the woods. And I pretty much travel throughout New England. The only New England state I haven't taught a class in is Rhode Island at this point. But I'm all over New England pretty much. I'm up in Maine a lot, New Hampshire a lot, Vermont a lot. Um, and then a lot of my classes happen in Townsend, Massachusetts. I have a few conservation lands I'll use, but that location I really like. It just works out, and that's my favorite spot. It's a beautiful spot. So a lot of the classes that I host are in Townsend, Mass, but I'll even come to you. Like I go to people's backyards and do the homeschool classes at their yard, so it's convenient for them. I'll do one-on-one classes, all different stuff, birthday party, scout stuff, corporate team building,
Mhm.
challenge type things, everything. So, like I said, I'd always recommend people come to one of my Wilderness Survival 1 classes if you just want to see what it's all about, hoping that you pursue it further. But that class on its own is a great kind of well-rounded, general, basic kind of backpacker survival course.
Yeah, it sounds like a great place for a lot of people to start, just get their feet wet. They might be the foraging people, or they might be the hardcore, maybe military style. They want the survival stuff, but yeah, it sounds like a great place to just start off and then see where you want to branch off.
Exactly. Yep. So it's going. So come to Mass and
Yeah,
sit
I
in
hope
traffic on your way to the
I
class.
hope we send
What
some
was that?
people your way. I hope we send some people your way, and I think we love what you're doing. I love the gear junkie stuff. I like that, and yeah, I hope people come and check you out.
Well, thank you very much. It was
Yeah,
great to meet you guys. I think you guys are awesome and you guys are running a cool thing.
thank you. Here, I'll close out. There we are.